And count in about 7 seconds, we should be live.
Okay, and then just don't forget, everyone, standard online meeting protocol, make sure you have your microphone muted when you're not speaking so we don't get echoes. And I think that covers everything. All right, are we streaming?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we can call to order the meeting of the City of Mission Viejo Traffic Committee meeting for Friday, March 5th, 2021. We're called to order at 2:01 p.m. So this is an opportunity for residents to address various traffic and transportation related issues with two members of the city's Planning and Transportation Commission. We have an agenda we're going to be going through today, and we'll be looking at that in just a moment here. But first, we always like to do some brief introductions. So I'll start. We'll go around with staff first, and then end up with our two commissioners introducing themselves. My name is Brett Kennedy. I'm the transportation analyst for the City of Mission Viejo.
Hello, I'm Philip Matsuyama. I'm the city traffic engineer for the City of Mission Viejo.
And I'm Rich Schlesinger, the city engineer for the City of Mission Viejo. Get on mute, Deputy Dixon.
Got it. Deputy Dixon with the Orange County Sheriff's Department.
All right, Commissioner Aquino, do you want to go?
Yeah, Andrew Aquino, Planning and Transportation Commissioner, sworn in earlier this year.
And I am Peter Molinari, Planning and Transportation Commissioner, sworn in with Commissioner Aquino.
All right, very good. Now, let's see, if I flip over to our agenda, our first item is to receive and file the December Traffic Committee minutes. So you guys have been provided an advance copy of that, and so we'll have just a brief moment if there are any questions or comment on those. Otherwise, we'll move forward with the receive and file.
I looked at them. Neither of us were at that meeting, and I trust it's accurate. So I'm happy to receive and file it.
Yeah, that's why we call it receive and file for this, because neither of you were assigned to the traffic committee last year. So starting with our next meeting, it will actually be a formal approval on it. So for now, we do receive and file.
Okay. I'm okay with that as well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, all right, then that we will go forward with the receive and file. And our next item is pedestrian safety at Marguerite and Trabuco, which is my item to present, which means I need to remember how to share my screen. I don't, let's see, share screen. All right, and then over to the minutes. All right, so this item comes to us at the request of one of our residents who shared concerns about pedestrian safety at the intersection of Tribuco Road and Marguerite Parkway. So here's a general location map. In the lower right corner, you see in the orange dotted circle, that is where
Brett,
yes?
I don't mean to interject, but I'm looking at the agenda.
Okay.
I think agenda item number 2.
Did I misread it?
I believe so.
Oh, it's parking restrictions on Moro. Okay. Nope, that was my mistake. Yeah. All right, Philip, here, do you want me to stop sharing and let you go? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that we're going down the agenda as it's listed. So the first agenda meeting minutes, which you guys had already reviewed. The second item on the agenda is the parking restrictions for proposed on Moro Azul. And that's actually my item. So I'm going to discuss and present that item. Let me see if I could share my screen here. Okay. Do you guys see my screen now? Can you guys give me a thumbs? Okay, great. So this is a vicinity map for Moro, Azul. There was a resident that requested parking restrictions on one side of the street, which is the slope side, and the other side of the street has houses. So they're asking for proposed parking restrictions on the slope side of the street only. This map just shows you where Moro Azul is located at. If you're along Marguerite Parkway, just north of Felipe Road, there's a street, Mesilla. Once you enter Mesilla, you make a right, and then you go north onto Loma Verde, and then it curves into Moro Azul. Loma Verde and Moro Azul is actually the same street, except they have two different names. So the request for parking restrictions is only on Moro Azul. All right, and then on Moro Azul, the speed limit is the prima facie speed limit, 25 miles per hour. And that's normal for a residential street with direct housing access. We don't have any traffic volume data on that street. And we reviewed the reported traffic collision history in the past 3 years, which is 2018, 2019, and 2020. And there were 0 reported collisions on Moro Azul in those past 3 years. And this is our next slide, which is an aerial photo of Moro Azul. As you can see, there's houses on one side of Moro Azul, and then there's a slope on the other side. The yellow lines that I painted on here is where the proposed parking restrictions are being requested by the resident. And there's also a couple of fire hydrants on the street on the slope side of Moro Azul. As you know, there's already existing parking restrictions in front of fire hydrants, whether there's a red curb or signage or not. You know, that's under the California Vehicle Code. So all the homes are on one side of the street. There's also a pedestrian trail entrance between a couple of homes. And that pedestrian trail entrance leads to La Mancha Park on the other side of the homes. So I just wanted to show that. As you can see, Moro Azul is a cul-de-sac at the end, and then it intersects with Campesino, and it also intersects with Loma Verde, which is they're actually the same street, they just have a different name. All right. And the yellow line shows the proposed parking restriction. So here we are on this exhibit was, I zoomed in to identify the width of the roadway. So Moro Azul between Campesino and Loma Verde, the width from curb to curb is 34 feet and 9 inches. And then the width of Moro Azul between Campesino and the cul-de-sac is 28 feet. And those two numbers are important, and I'll tell you why. This is the next exhibit. This is our standard plan 304 for the city of Mission Viejo. The yellow portions that I highlighted, that R value, so that the figure on top is a cross section of the street. If you cut the street in half, you're looking right on the slice where the road is coming at you, basically. And the R value represents the width of roadway in feet between the existing curbs on both sides of the road. So our current standard allows for parking, and this is the current City of Mission Viejo standard. The current standard highlighted in yellow that says parking is allowed on both sides of the street when the R value is 36 feet. So if it's 36 feet from curb to curb, parking is allowed on both sides of the street. If the R value is 30 feet or more, then parking is permitted on both sides of the street. So the Moro Azul is actually below the current City of Mission Viejo standard, depending on which section you're referring to. But I believe the street on Moro Azul, it was approved under the Orange County guidelines at the time when it was constructed. So I just want to make that very clear. So moving forward, this is a street view photo of Moro Azul as you're turning from Loma Verde. As you can see, there's homes on the right side on the top photo, and then there's a slope on the left side. I made a note that there's where the proposed parking restrictions is requested on the left side on the slope side. And then the bottom picture is if you're traveling further on Moro Azul right before Campesino, you can see Campesino on the left. That's the street that's coming in. And then there's the existing fire hydrant at the corner. And the proposed parking restrictions is being requested on the left side. On the right side is where all the homes are. As you can see where the car's parked, the car is parking on the right side. And then driving further into Moro Azul, this is right before the pedestrian trail entrance. Again, there's the second fire hydrant that I mentioned earlier, and the proposed parking restriction that's being requested is on the left side. All the homes are on the right side, as you can see, and that's where the cars are parking as well. Then this bottom photo, I took this photo from the cul-de-sac. So I'm looking in the opposite direction this time. So the slope side is on the right, and that's where the proposed parking restrictions are being requested. The left side is where the homes and the driveways are located. So this exhibit right here is our parking inventory exhibit. I divided the street into 4 sections, A, B, C, and D. And A and B is where the yellow proposed parking restrictions are being requested. And as you can see at the bottom of this exhibit, we have the parking observation summary, which is the number of cars that we observed. We reviewed the street 2 different days and 3 different times of the day, which is Monday and Wednesday. So the first observation, the first line there, February 15, which is 5 p.m. on Monday. Sections A and B, they're highlighted in yellow. That's where the proposed parking restrictions are being requested. That we observed 0 cars on the street on that portion. And then section C, there were 0 cars. But section D, there were 3 cars located there. And then on the second line on Wednesday at 8 a.m., again, there were 0 cars in sections A and B. And then in section C, there were 2 cars parked there. And then in section D, there was another 2 cars parked there. And then on the last line, it was a Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. We saw 0 cars on sections A and B. And then there were 4 cars on section C and 2 cars on section D. So moving forward, this is the original email from the original resident that asked for the proposed parking restriction. So I'm actually going to read this backwards. I'm going to read it from the bottom first. Philip, I went to the street area, and a better area for the no parking signs would be on Moro Azul from 27031 to 2671 on the side of the street where there are no houses. Hopefully this will let you progress to the next step in the process. Thanks. And then the original email on top, Philip, it's been a while since we spoke. I called to find out how to get the city to put a do not park on this side of the street sign on the south side of Loma Verde in the Baja Oso subdivision. When cars are parked on that side of the street, one cannot see oncoming traffic. And when cars are parked on both sides of the street, there is barely enough room for one car to pass, never mind two. Please let me know if you need any other information from me. Thank you. So that was the original residents' emails to me requesting the parking restrictions. So to close out the last exhibit that I posted online, our options, the first options is to keep the existing conditions and we'll continue to monitor the street. The second option is to construct no parking restriction signs on the entire slope side of Moro Azul per the residents' request. A third option is we could break up a portion of the no parking restrictions on the slope side of Moro Azul, either between Loma Verde and Campesino, or the other portion between Campesino and the end of the cul-de-sac. We have that option as well. And then the fourth option, we could paint the red curb 15 feet in each direction of the two existing fire hydrants, or we can keep it with no parking restriction signs. We could add those in there for the fire hydrants. However, I will say that the no parking restriction in front of fire hydrants are enforceable with or without signage and with or without a red curb. So these are the exhibits that I posted online. Since we posted that online, we sent out postcard notifications to the neighbors on Moro Azul. And I did receive 3 comments from the neighborhood. So I'm going to read these comments out loud to the commissioners. The first resident comment states, I am responding to the notice regarding the virtual meeting of the traffic committee, item number 2 on March 5th, 2021. I am in support of the no parking anytime parking restrictions on the slope side of Moro Azul from Loma Verde to the cul-de-sac. At times, it is very difficult to maneuver around vehicles when they are parked on both sides of the road. This is especially difficult when there are service vehicles, trucks parked on the slope side and another vehicle is parked on the house side of the road. Thank you for taking this into consideration, Mr. Mike Ryan. That was the first comment. The second comment came from Miss Lori O'Reilly, to whom it may concern at Traffic Services, City of Mission Viejo. I have resided at 27041 Moro Azul, Mission Viejo for over 27 years. In that time, I have neither seen nor had a concern for there not being enough room for 2 cars to drive by when vehicles are parked on the slope side of Moro Azul. For that matter, the street Campesino, located off of Moro Azul, is actually 2 feet narrower than Moro Azul. Once again, I have never had a problem driving on that street when cars are parked on the slope side. It is essential that Moro Azul be open for anyone to park on due to the limited parking in front of houses. I live on a pie-shaped lot that has 0 parking space in front of my home. The neighbor to my right, which is a Loma Verde address, is on a flagpole lot, and they too have 0 space to park in front of their own home. Our guests, people performing maintenance at the property, delivery trucks often park on the slope side of Moro Azul in order to reach our homes. Forbidding parking there would negatively impact the homeowners and residents on this street without providing any safety benefit. Sincerely, Miss Lori O'Reilly. That was the second resident comment. And then the third and last resident comment is from Mr. Brian Scher. Hello, my name is Brian Scher. I live at 27011 Moro, Azul. I don't see any need to make this a no parking zone at this time. That side of the street is typically used only by workers or visitors and is necessary for those purposes. Just yesterday, March 4, 2021, it was used by association gardeners for about 3 hours. If they didn't park there, they would have been on the resident side of the street, blocking residents from parking near their home. If not for parking on the slope side, there would be very few places to park, and those vehicles, those of workers and visitors, will then be in the way of residents who park on the north side of the street on a regular basis. Please leave the street parking alone. There is no need to place restrictions on parking on the slope side currently. Thank you, Mr. Brian Scher. So that's the residents' comments that I received. There were 3 of them, and that concludes my presentation. Did the commissioners have any questions regarding the presentation?
There is I do. There was a mention about 0 collisions. I assume that also includes any incidents involving pedestrians. Like there were no incidents involving pedestrians getting struck by a car or anything.
Correct. Yeah, we reviewed our database for reported collisions, and that includes all traffic-related collisions: pedestrians, motor vehicles, bicycles. We didn't find any in the 3-year sample that we looked at. If there was any collisions, it was not reported, so we wouldn't know about it. And if we don't know about it, then we don't know what the primary collision factor is, and we can't do anything to remedy the situation if it was not reported. So yes, that's correct. There were 0 reported collisions in the past 3-year sample.
And then you mentioned postcard notices were sent out to residents. If you could let us know when were these sent out, and then which addresses specifically, or which groups of properties received this notice?
Yes, our typical procedure sends out the postcard notifications within a 300-foot radius of the proposed area. So for this particular traffic committee item, everyone with a Moro Azul address received a postcard notification. And we sent the postcard notifications out, I believe, a week ago, which was last Friday. That's when we put it in the mail. I presume that the residents probably received it by Monday of this week. And that's actually ahead of the required schedule. We're required to notify the meeting about 72 hours in advance of the meeting time, which would put us maybe Tuesday at 2 o'clock. They should have received the notification. So we sent out the postcards on last Friday, and we were required to have them notified by Tuesday, I believe. So.
Okay, thank you, Philip. Those are all my questions. I think, well, before I make any comments, Commissioner Molinari, if you have any questions.
Yeah, I had a question regarding classification under Local B, the 28 feet across that's noted on Moro Azul from Campesino to the end of the cul-de-sac. You had mentioned that when this was built, this went under a county classification. Do you know the like details on that classification, just so we have backup information as to why we utilized that and when it was during, I guess, construction of the development?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a historical question. I don't have the exact date of when this street was built, but I would suspect that it was built under the county standards because it falls below our city of Mission Viejo standards today for a residential street. So, our city, I believe, incorporated into a city in 1988. So before 1988, I'm going to assume that this street was already constructed. One of the residents said, she's living there for over 27 years. So I think that's not actually before 1988. But there's several streets in the city that are similar to this street where the county built it to the County of Orange standards. And the width of the street probably had a different standard plan for the County of Orange compared to today's City of Mission Viejo standards. I'm going to ask our city engineer, maybe Rich Schlesinger, if maybe he can shed some light on the standard plans for County of Orange, or if he knows when this particular tract was built. Rich, are you there?
Yeah, I don't have any dates for that, but the county standards haven't changed probably since the 80s, my recollection.
I just looked up on Zillow. I believe this was an 83 build, according to public records. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm reading online. So sorry.
I'm looking at our city's GIS system, and it's showing a construction date of 1976 on the homes on this street.
Okay.
I would have to go back and
Thank you.
find the county standard plans that were in effect at that date. In fact, I don't ever recall seeing any county standard plans that old. I mean, I'm sure they're around somewhere, but I think it'd be kind of difficult for us to find those.
However, something like this will be grandfathered in. Phil, I'm assuming since it was built, pre 88 and was to the county standards.
Correct. Yeah, you're correct. I believe they would be grandfathered in. Again, this is not the only street in Mission Viejo that has these characteristics. There are several streets in Mission Viejo that are the same width that it was built to this standard. So.
Great. Thank you. That's all I had on that.
Okay. Did anybody else have any questions? Deputy Dixon, did you have any questions at all?
Yes, you brought up the county warrant on the width of the street, and you had number 36, 30, and 28. 36 allowing for parking on both sides, 30 allowing for parking on one side, and 28 feet allows for no parking on the street whatsoever. And the width of Moro Azul from Campesino down to the start of the cul-de-sac is at that 28-foot mark. And so if you go by the warrant, no parking should be allowed on either side of the street from Campesino, like the east side of Campesino, where it opens up to 34.9 feet, down to the cul-de-sac where it opens up to a larger cul-de-sac area where parking, could technically be allowed in there and still allow room for vehicles to turn around. So I don't know if you want to follow what the county's plans were at the time with the 28 feet, or go with the one side and set it at the 30-foot mark and then restrict that parking on the street. It doesn't look like a whole lot of people park there. It is a cul-de-sac. My guess on traffic flow is you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 houses that are in that cul-de-sac area, probably averaging 3 or 4 trips a day maybe in there, and then people coming in and maybe visiting or whatever, and then some probable minor usage of people going into the park area and parking over there. But it doesn't look like that's what's happening because they can go in and access the park off of Country Club and park on that area of the roadway and enter the park a lot easier. That's where I see a majority of the cars when I'm driving around are people parked over there.
We wouldn't, you know, we have our standard plans of street widths that we use those for example, if we're going to design a new track, we would go by our standards. The fact that this track was designed to a different standard, we wouldn't use that as a hard, fast rule for enforcing or determining whether or not we're going to allow parking or not, because you know, it's quasi grandfathered in. And again, our standard plans, as far as allowing parking or not parking, are, you know, guidelines and recommendations. They're not hard, fast vehicle code requirements for those items.
Correct. Okay. Did anybody else have any questions or comments? If there aren't any, I'm going to ask the two commissioners on what their thoughts are for this request moving forward. What would your vote be on the request for proposed parking restrictions?
Yeah, if I may make my comments, I think I'm inclined to remain with the status quo and not restrict parking on that street. I am encouraged by the fact that we did send out notice and ask for further input from the residents. From the sample size we did for the studies, it doesn't look like a lot of people park on that side anyway. And I'm sensitive to some of the comments made by one of the residents that because of maintenance workers and delivery trucks that have to go there and deliver, they would be restricted if they didn't have parking on that slope side. And I also imagine that those residences, the value in having that side of the street, having no homes but places to park, is sort of what allows them to appreciate living there. And so for us to restrict that, I think would negatively impact that benefit. So I'm inclined to not support any parking restrictions on there, with the exception of course, the fire hydrants, not being able to park there based on code.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Molinari?
Yeah, I would concur on that based on what you have here on attachment number 3 with the parking observations, as well as some of the comments that Commissioner Aquino alluded to by the residents, utilizing for landscape work, deliveries, and such. I would also be inclined to remain the status quo.
Okay, thank you. So just to conclude, based on the commissioner's comments and vote, we will continue to keep the street at its current status quo for parking. We'll just keep it as is today. And that concludes this agenda item. Thank you. Mary, stop sharing my screen.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Yes. All right. Now we get to talk about our pedestrian safety at Marguerite and Tribuco, which I was so excited to start sharing earlier, but it is what it is. All right. So, can you guys see my screen now? All right, I see thumbs up. Okay. So, this is an item for that's requesting the city to review pedestrian safety at the intersection of Marguerite and Tribuco. In the lower right-hand corner in the orange dotted circle is the intersection of Marguerite and Tribuco. I also highlighted in the blue dotted circle Castile Elementary School, and that's important because that will be brought up in the residents' comments later towards the end of the presentation. But he does note that that they feels that there's some unsafe conditions there, and part of that is due to the proximity to the school. And so here's the layout of the intersection of Marguerite and Tribuco. And you can see we have the request is specific to the crosswalks crossing Marguerite Parkway. So between the red arrows, we have the northerly crosswalk, and between the yellow arrows, we have the southerly crosswalk. And you have the left turns that go across them. One of the things that we have as a tool to draw more attention to the pedestrians are the turning vehicles yield to pedestrian signs that you see in the bottom right corner of your screen, and we're going to talk about those in just a minute here. So I'd like to direct your attention to the turning movement counts that we have on the screen here. And we also included pedestrian counts for the crosswalks. So when we do turning movement counts, we look at the main peak travel periods of the day. So there's an AM peak period, there's a midday peak, and then the afternoon or the PM peak. And for the morning peak, the eastbound left turn had 68 vehicles that hour making the left turn. And during that same hour, the northerly crosswalk that was between the red arrows had 2 pedestrians crossing during that hour. During the morning peak, the westbound left turn had 8 vehicles making the turn, and 0 pedestrians were observed in the crosswalk during that hour. Midday for the eastbound left turn, we had 84 vehicles with only 3 pedestrians in the crosswalk during that hour. Westbound left turn had 12 vehicles and only 2 pedestrians in the crosswalk during that hour. And finally, in the PM peak hour, we had 56 vehicles making the eastbound left turn and 2 pedestrians in the crosswalk for that hour, and 36 vehicles making the westbound left turn and 0 pedestrians in the crosswalk for that hour. We also have collision data for the intersection of Marguerite and Tribuco. These are any collisions that occurred within 200 feet of the intersection. In 2019, we had 1 collision and there were no pedestrians involved. And in 2018, there were 5 collisions, but again, no pedestrians were involved in any of those. And again, as Philip mentioned in our previous item, these are reported collisions. So if there were any vehicle versus pedestrian collisions that occurred that were not reported to the sheriff's department, we wouldn't know. We also don't get to have data on things like close calls because close calls don't result in a collision report. Let's see. And I'm having a technical issue here where I cannot scroll to the next page and show my photos. So I don't quite know what to do. Let's try. Nope. Opening this item again. All right, well, the remainder of the item had 2 photographs showing the approach on each direction to the intersection. And the main takeaway from these photos would be that the traffic signal uses a circular...
Hey, Brett, if you want to
Yes?
let me share my screen, I have those up right now.
Hey, Brett,
Okay,
you can try that down arrow next to number 2 at the top.
Down arrow next to the... Yeah, it pops up this little
okay.
reader saying there's an error processing a page. So I think I'm going to opt for letting Rich share the photos.
Okay. Does everybody see that?
Yes, we can. Can you zoom in on the photo so that we can see the traffic signal indications? Because that's was the main thing. Is again the circular signal indications tell the motorists that that they may proceed through the intersection when it is safe to do so. They would need to have a green arrow indication to have a protected left turn to be able to go and know that the crosswalk would be clear. But again, in this instance, the pedestrian is going to have the right of way on the crosswalk, and the left turns have to yield to them. So that's the condition out here that the resident is raising concerns about, that motorists are not paying attention to the crosswalks and are making their left turns and cutting close to pedestrians who are trying to cross the street. And I'm going to try to bring this up over here real quick so I can see my comments from the resident, because I'm going to need better text to read from. All right, the final item I have is the original request. The text reads, the lights for pedestrians at the cross of Tribuco Circle and Marguerite is extremely dangerous and appear to malfunction. Children try to cross this road and to get to Castile Elementary School, but it is extremely difficult, and the pedestrian lights appear to be malfunctioning. When the signal is given for parents and children to walk across, cars still have the ability and right to cross at the same time. I have seen 3 close calls in the last month. This does not appear correct, especially close to a school. So again, the resident is addressing the issue of having the permissive left turn over a crosswalk that has a active walk phase on it at the same time. So that concludes the report, and we are available for any questions you may have.
If I may ask first, is there anything to that resident's comment that the lights, the pedestrian lights are malfunctioning?
They are not malfunctioning. It just appears that the concern is because the vehicles making the left turns are permitted to cross the crosswalk when there are pedestrians there, but the pedestrian has the right of way. And this is not a unique situation to this one intersection, where there are a few others in town that have a similar setup. Like, for example, along Los Alisos Boulevard, we have Via Navino, Vista del Lago, and Entidad are all set up the same way, where there's no protected left turn for the side street. They can make their left turn as long as there are no pedestrians present.
And the concern here is just crossing across Marguerite, not Trabuco. We wouldn't be putting signs in the northbound or southbound left turns on into Trabuco.
Yeah, the northbound and southbound directions have a protected left turn phase where there is a red, yellow, and green arrow. And when you have the arrow indications, that means the signal will not allow the turning vehicles to turn while there's an active crossing going on over in the crosswalk. So that's what keeps it separated on the Marguerite side. For pedestrians crossing Tribuco. That's why we don't have that issue over there.
I see. Okay. And what's the criteria for getting a crossing guard at that intersection during school hours? Is that something we can do or explore?
There is a warrant that we look at for the number of school-related crossings and how many unprotected turns are made over the crosswalk over a given time frame, and that's something we can investigate. But it is our understanding that from the declining population at Castile Elementary School, that it would be difficult to find a way for that to satisfy the warrant.
If I may just answer that, like you're correct, Commissioner Quino. There is a warrant for a crossing guard. I believe that warrant requires a minimum of 25 pedestrians crossing per hour for a minimum of 2 hours per day. So that's the criteria. Would have to go out there and observe, during the start of the school and then the end of the school dismissal time, see how many school pedestrians are crossing there. And they have to be that minimum 25 or more. So during the COVID era right now, I know some schools are doing remote learning. So I'm not sure if Castile is doing remote learning, but if we were to go out there today, I would guess that we wouldn't meet that criteria. Historically, I will say when I first started at the city, there was a crossing guard there. And a few years after I started, there was a request for a crossing guard closer to the school. So we did a comparison. It was directly in front of the school. We counted the pedestrians directly in front of the school, and we counted the pedestrians here at Marguerite and Tribuco, and there was a lot more pedestrians in front of the school. So we relocated that crossing guard at Marguerite and Tribuco to the front of the school because I remember at the time it did not warrant a crossing guard at Tribuco, and that was the reason why we removed the crossing guard and we relocated it to the other location. So I hope that addresses your crossing guard question.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, I don't think anyone would be dropping off their kid not directly in front of the school or as close as possible to it, much less like near that intersection. So, okay, thank you for answering my questions.
And if I may, do we have the student population at Castile and how that's trended over the past couple of years? Someone spoke to that?
Yeah, that's not information I have available to me at this moment.
Okay, and then you said the crossing guard now is over when school's in session at Tribuco and Porta de Luz, over closer to the school. No.
I can answer that. Yes, that's correct.
No, there's one that's on Trabuco at Moro Azul, but the other crossing guard is inside and directly out in front of the school. As you come in, if you go over towards the school, if you're coming up north on Trabuco and you make the right to go into the school, there's a crosswalk that's on Via La Coruna. As you make the left to go north on Via La Coruna, that's where they moved the crossing guard and put a crosswalk in. And they've got a traffic control sign now there that restricts the movements of left turns from, I want to say 0800 to 0815 or something like that. And then there's the crosswalk that's out on Tribuco that the other crossing guard is at. And majority of parents coming there are pulling in onto Via La Coruna, parking, walking down the westerly sidewalk towards on Via La Coruna, cross over and then enter the school in that northern driveway area. There's a sidewalk that goes up and you can barely see it, but it's along the parking lot edge. And then they'll walk over to the front of the school, drop their kids off, and then they'll come back in. We've got people parking all the way up, all around the school to drop their kids off in the morning. We work that area in the morning for the traffic control sign to cite people that are either A, not obeying the crossing guard, or B, making that left turn in violation of the sign restrictions in the morning.
Thank you, Deputy Dixon. That was helpful, and that seems to be where I would assume more potential for more incidents might be as well. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. So just the last thing for the report, you recall there was the picture of the turning vehicles yield to pedestrian signs that were on page 2 of the report. And so that is the appropriate street sign that we can put up to help address this issue, to remind motorists to be mindful of pedestrians in the crosswalk. And so I think the question that is before the committee for right now is if you would be interested in having signs like those installed, or if we want to go back and look at other alternatives instead. So I think that's the question that we're asking right now.
I think the signs are a good start, and I wouldn't be opposed to it based on the information we have now. And then if it continues, if we continue to get feedback such that it is a continuing problem, obviously it's something we can explore again. But I think for now, I'm inclined to be in approval of the signs.
I too, I think the signs are a good idea, and I think it addresses the situation at hand with people paying attention to the turns, especially post-COVID when kids are getting back to school again. I'm inclined to be in favor of those signs.
Okay, then we can take that our direction from the traffic committee is to have those signs installed, and then that can conclude this particular item if there are no further comments. And we can move on to our next item, which is always stop signs at Puerto Real and La Alameda, and that item will be presented by Philip.
Can you guys see my exhibit?
We can now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So this is my vicinity map. We received a request for proposed all-way stop sign control at the intersection of Puerto Real and La Alameda. So this intersection, if you're familiar with Crown Valley Parkway and the 5 freeway, if you're heading east, this, I believe it's the second traffic signal is Puerto Real. And then if you go north on Puerto Real, you hit the intersection of La Alameda. And that's where the yellow circle is located at in the vicinity map. So that's the location of the intersection. This is my aerial exhibit. At this intersection, there are already 2 existing stop signs on La Alameda. There's one stop sign, that's the yellow dot. And then there's another yellow dot, which is coming out of the commercial driveway. So there's stop signs there. But as you're traveling along Puerto Real, north and south, there are no stop signs. It's uncontrolled, is how we would describe it. So that's where they're asking for stop signs along Puerto Real. So that's where I put the red dots. The red dots are the proposed stop sign locations for this intersection. The speed limit on Puerto Real is 40 miles an hour. And the speed limit on La Alameda is 30 miles an hour. The average daily traffic, or ADT, there's about 6,500 cars on Puerto Real every day. And La Alameda has about 2,400 cars every day. So I just wanted to provide that information. This photo is if you're traveling northbound on Puerto Real. As you can see, there's 2 lanes in each direction and then a left turn lane. Today, there's no stop sign, so you just drive through the intersection. It's an uncontrolled approach. To the right side, you see La Alameda. It's I would say a collector street that leads to businesses. And then on the left side of this photo is the commercial driveway coming out of the retail shops, and they have a stop sign as well. This next photo is coming from the other direction. You're heading southbound on Puerto Real towards Crown Valley. Again, there's 2 lanes in each direction and then a left turn lane in the middle. La Alameda in this photo is on the left where that car is coming out. And then the commercial driveway is on the right. There's another car waiting to come out from that commercial driveway. Both of those approaches have a stop sign. And this is looking from La Alameda. We're going straight, and this is it's meeting Puerto Real. As you can see, there's an existing stop sign there. And then directly across the intersection is the commercial driveway, and that driveway also has a stop sign. On the far left of this photo, it says the AAA Auto Club. I believe that the resident that provided this request works at the AAA Auto Club, so they have a direct view of this intersection from their office. And then this photo is coming out of the commercial driveway. As you can see, there's a stop sign. La Alameda is directly across, and then Puerto Real is going side to side without any restrictions. So for an always stop sign at an intersection, there's a criteria for it. The first warrant, we'll call it warrant A. You put stop signs in all approaches if it is the beginning of the construction of a traffic signal. So if you're going to build a traffic signal at this location, you can temporarily add stop signs in all directions while the signal poles are being built. So that is not the case here. So that warrant is not satisfied. Warrant B, this is our collision warrant. And specifically, it has to be a broadside collision. So that's broadside at the intersection. We did review the collision data, and there were 0 reported broadside collisions in the past 3 years. This warrant, if you have 5 or more reported broadside collisions in a 12-month period, that's how you would meet this warrant. So that warrant was not met. So we go to the third and last warrant, warrant C. This is the traffic volume warrant. This warrant states that you need 300 cars on the main street and 200 cars from the side street for a minimum of 8 hours during the daytime. So we did have traffic volume counts on Puerto Real and La Alameda. And as you can see on this table, I typed in the highest 8 hours that we could count on those traffic volumes. So there's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth column, it's Puerto Real, it says total. In yellow, the warrant is 300. And then the green means that we met that volume criteria, the 300, for 7 hours, but then on the 8th hour, we did not meet it. So that's why it's colored in red. The next column over, it says La Alameda Side Street. It's supposed to have 200 cars per hour. And for the best 8 hours for this traffic count that we have, it did not reach the 200 car threshold in any of those hours. So that's why I painted it in red. The next column over, it says 100% satisfied or met. Did we meet the 300 and 200 volume criteria for 8 hours? And it was a no for that whole column. There's a lesser warrant, which is 80%, which is that last column there. So 80% of 300 and 200, that equates to 240 and 160. So did we meet 80% of that criteria for a minimum of 8 hours? And the answer is no. That's why I put it in red. So for the traffic volume criteria, we didn't meet that warrant either. So warrant D is basically what I've just read. Warrant D is a combination of warrant B and C together, but at 80%. So warrant D is saying, did you meet the traffic volume at 80%? And did you meet the traffic collision volume for broadside collisions at 80%? And the answer to both of those is no. So under all 4 warrants, the always stop sign warrant criteria is not satisfied. There are other alternatives that we have used in the past to manage speeds, spot police enforcement and temporary speed radar trailers. I just want to throw that out there as options. This is the original email that was sent to city staff. So I'm going to read this out loud. Hi, Philip. I'm concerned about the safety at the intersection of Puerto Real and La Alameda. I work at the AAA Automotive Club facing these 2 streets. I've seen 2 situations more than once and want to bring them to your attention so a possible always stop sign can be considered. Our staff constantly hears both drivers using their car horns to alert for possible collisions, as well as drivers gunning their engines to speed on Puerto Real. This is a dangerous intersection to watch helplessly. First, pedestrians coming down La Alameda and crossing Puerto Real towards our shopping center. There are quite a few moms with small kids and strollers that have to run across the street to avoid the speeding cars on Puerto Real. Second, cars approaching from Crown Valley on Puerto Real that are turning right on La Alameda are going so fast that they turn into the far left side, which would be a head-on collision with cars coming down La Alameda. A stop sign on Puerto Real at La Alameda would eliminate both of these situations from happening and save lives as well. Thank you for your time, Ms. Ashley Brown. So that was the original comment. We sent out postcard notifications to all the businesses in the area within the 300-foot radius. We did not receive any comments from anybody else. I have 3 more exhibits to show about this intersection. There was another request in the recent past, and so I just wanted to share this with the traffic committee. Actually, before that, so our options for this request, we can keep the existing conditions and continue to monitor the intersection. We can construct the stop signs on the northbound and southbound Puerto Real. But if the commissioners want to do that, we may have to forward this agenda item to a future Planning and Transportation Commission meeting because the warrants are not met from a technical standpoint. We also have the request for, we can request spot police enforcement to manage the speeds. We can request the placement of speed radar trailers on Puerto Real to manage the speed. So those are our options for this agenda item. This exhibit, just in the recent past, back in April 2019, this is Puerto Real and La Alameda again. There was a request for a pedestrian crosswalk at this intersection. And we had some associated signage in advance of the crosswalk. And this request was denied. And this is the meeting minutes at the time. The request was denied. Let me see here. The committee suggested that the employee addressed the parking issue at the shopping center, and that was the reason why the request was denied. There was an employee at the shopping center that was parking on La Alameda and then crossing the street to get to work. And she thought that a crosswalk would be helpful, but the traffic committee indicated that she should be parking within the parking lot and not having to cross the street. So the traffic committee denied the request because the employee should have been parking in the parking lot. In any event, I just wanted to bring this up. So this was a recent item that was presented at the traffic committee in April 2019 for a historical reference. So that concludes my presentation. And I'll ready to answer any questions from the commissioners if you have any.
If I may, as far as the traffic on Puerto Real from Crown Valley, is there a significant car count and speed issue on that street that we know of?
As far as the number of cars there, I think one of the exhibits, yeah, it's this exhibit. There is about 6,500 cars per day. That's what we were able to count. In regards to speeding, I'll let Deputy Dixon answer that question.
So what we have here down at the dead end of Puerto Real is a large business complex, the mammoth office buildings that are on the left-hand side. So in the morning, we have a major uptick of people coming in on Puerto Real and heading into their office buildings there, and on the next street at Los Altos, I think is the next one up. It also has major businesses on the right side. You also have a elementary school that's up there off of La Sierra that morning traffic really heats up, people driving up there to drop their kids off. It's also a major cut through for people heading south and getting over to Saddleback College. We do work considerable traffic enforcement on that area, especially down at the stop signs at Puerto Real / Villa Grande, work that quite a bit. We'll also conduct speed enforcement for southbound traffic just south of La Alameda in that AAA parking lot, because that's where we get the best shot on them. So I'm telling them where we work and hope they'll slow down. But we do cite people there on a considerable basis, and usually in the afternoon or the later morning, the traffic dies down quite a bit, and then it'll pick up around lunchtime with people going out to lunch. It'll be heavy for a while. And then at the end of the day, school-wise letting out, and then people going home from work, it'll pick back up again. I don't have a traffic count of the specific times that it's the heaviest, but my experience, that's when it's the heaviest, and we already are doing enforcement on in that area all around.
Thank you. That's all for me.
Okay.
I'm really familiar with this intersection because a long time ago, I used to work in one of those offices farther north of Puerto Real in that intersection across from the park. And acknowledging that this is purely anecdotal, but notwithstanding the lack of the warrants that we met for all that criteria, I witnessed a lot of near misses, especially with cars turning left from Alameda onto Puerto Real. So I'm actually surprised that the data isn't showing actual collisions, but I suspect there was a lot of near misses that obviously go unreported. But it's, frankly, personally, it's a frightening intersection for me. And I know a lot of the people that live in the neighborhood east of Puerto Real, they actually cut through using La Alameda to get to the freeway so they can avoid all the traffic on Crown Valley, which back then when I was working near there, I saw a lot of traffic in the morning, and then like Deputy Dixon said, during lunchtime, we would often go down to some of those businesses and have lunch, and I would see again a lot of those near misses that were just frightening to me, to the point where I would never offer to drive my coworkers and I. So just again, anecdotally for me, I would be in support of having stop signs in the remaining parts of that intersection. And again, I recognize we don't meet the warrants for that. So if this were to go to the Planning Commission for further adjudication, I'm totally fine with that. But I've, just again, based on my personal anecdotal experience, I would be inclined to support stop signs there.
Okay.
Quick question. Do we have like the intersection signs, the T intersection signs that are posted on the north and south side of each one of those streets that come in off and intersect into Puerto Real?
Yes, I believe they're there. I thought I included it in the picture. No, it's a bit further back from where I took the picture.
Right.
But I do believe
couldn't
they're
recall.
there. The intersection ahead sign, yeah.
Okay.
Plus sign, yeah, it's there. Okay. So Commissioner Molinari, did you have any thoughts either way on the proposal?
Well, in looking at the warrants and the comments from Deputy Dixon, knowing that it's monitored and it's on the radar, I'm inclined to kind of keep the existing conditions and monitor and see in the future, if it needs to be addressed.
Okay. Okay, so it seems like we have a split vote here. Usually we were able to address the issue at the traffic committee meeting level. If we have a split vote, we could kick this request up to the Planning and Transportation Commission for a full vote for the entire committee. Since we did not reach a unanimous decision here at the traffic.
If I may, per your earlier instructions, if we're going to suggest and make the recommendation for the stop signs as well, it's going to go to the commission regardless, correct?
Correct. Yes, that's correct. But that was under the assumption that it was a unanimous decision from the traffic committee. I guess if we have a split vote, then we would have to go to Planning Commission as well. But the other option was if we had a unanimous decision not to approve it, then the motion would, or this request would die at the traffic committee. We wouldn't have to do anything more. But since we have a split vote, we would have to present this item to the Planning and Transportation Commission at a future meeting, and then we would have the full 5 commissioners make a vote either way on this request. So,
Here. Hey, Philip, I have a little bit of additional information that might be useful here. One of the other tools that we have is what we call the intersection watch list. And that's where we look at various unsignalized intersections around town where we have received requests for traffic signals. And this location is also on that same list where we evaluate it every other year. Based on the traffic signal warrants to see if it's warranted. Our next review of the intersection watch list isn't scheduled until next year in 2022. But from our last review, I'm looking at it. There are 2 main warrants we look at for traffic signals, and it didn't meet one of them. And it met the other one at 80%, because then we also have the third one similar to this, where if it meets 2 warrants at 80%, then that can be justification to put it in. So we do look at this from more than one angle than just stop signs. And so one of the other options is to wait and see what comes up with the watch list next year to see if there are any measured changes out there. So just wanted to throw that out there as something else to consider.
okay.
And if this went to the commission, this would be subject to a public hearing, correct?
Yes,
The
that's
public would be
correct.
invited to provide input. And so if it did go to the commission, would this same information be presented, or would there be additional investigation to present to the full commission, or would we just be getting the same presentation that we got?
You would get the same presentation and the same information. The difference is if we go to the planning commission, we would have to write a staff report, and so there'd be a little write-up. And then I would also include in that staff report probably the meeting minutes for this traffic committee and how the commissioners voted, and that would be the additional information, and that would explain how we ended up at the planning commission. So, but all of the materials would be exactly the same, and then we would then send out another round of postcard notifications to all the businesses in the area within a 300-foot radius for that meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still inclined to see what our brethren will say on the commission, and again, I've fully acknowledged this is just intuition based on my personal experience there. And obviously, if the rest of the commissioners don't feel the same, that's how it goes. But I think I want to sort of expand the discourse further and then give the residents another shot at providing their input.
Sure, not a problem. Okay, so for this agenda item, we'll forward it to the next Planning and Transportation Commission meeting. I don't think I'll be able to make it to this month's Planning Commission meeting because the agenda for this month's already has been released. So it'll most likely go to the April Planning Commission. Let me see what the date is on that one. It's the second Tuesday, I believe it would be April 13, which is when we would include it at the April 13 Planning Commission meeting. And just to let you know, when we write a staff report, there's an agenda title, which would be the same, proposed all-way stop signs at Puerto Real and La Alameda. And then we're required to put an action item on there, and it's written by city staff. So from our end, our recommended action would be to deny the request based on the technical warrant. But in the body of the report, we will provide all of the information input from the residents and what we discussed here today at the traffic committee meeting. So I just wanted to give that as a heads up. Okay. So that concludes. Did you have any additional comments?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Okay, so that concludes this agenda item. We'll forward it to the April 13 Planning and Transportation Commission meeting. All right, and then have our next agenda item, the agenda item number 5, which is the intersection warning sign on Montenoso Drive at Cresta Verde. And that item is also my item, so I'll be presenting that item. Let's see here. Okay, do you guys see my exhibit? Yes, okay, great. So this is our vicinity map. The resident is asking for an intersection ahead warning sign at Montenoso Drive and Cresta Verde. So this vicinity map shows the 5 freeway and Oso Parkway. The first intersection is Oso Parkway and Montenoso Drive. If you go north from that intersection on Montenoso, the first intersection you will encounter is Cresta Verde and Via Marina. They're the same street, they just have different names on both sides of Montenoso. So the resident indicated they were coming out of Cresta Verde and they wanted an intersection ahead warning sign along southbound Montenoso Drive. Montenoso has a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit, and the traffic volume is about 3,000 cars per day on Montenoso. At this intersection, Montenoso Drive and Cresta Verde via Marina, there were 0 reported traffic collisions from 2018, 2019, and 2020. I just want to provide that information. So here is our aerial exhibit. This is the yellow circle shows the intersection. This is Cresta Verde on the right side of that yellow circle. So when there's the residents coming out of Cresta Verde, making a left onto Montenoso, they've indicated that they had concerns about cars traveling south on Montenoso Drive, and they're unable to see them coming out of Cresta Verde. So you can see that there's other streets feeding off of Montenoso Drive. There's Via Viento and Via Concha. And then on the other side of Cresta Verde is Via Marina. They're the same street, but this just a different name. So here's our street view photos. The top photo, this is when you're driving down Montenoso Drive. Montenoso Drive's one street, one lane in each direction, and there's no median. There's a yellow center line. On the left side is Cresta Verde. It's actually behind this landscaping on the left side. And then Via Marina is on the right side. The bottom photo is when you're coming out of Cresta Verde and you're looking to your right. There's a speed limit sign that's 30 miles an hour. And then there's a horizontal and a vertical curve. So there's a challenge for them to see the cars coming south on Montenoso Drive. And this is a picture that was, I believe, that was provided by the resident. And then this photo on the top, you're coming from the opposite direction. This going north on Montenoso Drive from Oso Parkway. Cresta Verde is on your right side. That's where the car was coming out. And then on the left side is Via Marina. And then the bottom photo is when you're looking east on Via Marina, where there's a stop sign, and then Cresta Verde is on the opposite side of this intersection with Montenoso. So this is the proposed intersection ahead warning sign. So the sign on the right, it's a T, intersection ahead sign. So when you're driving down Montenoso, that sign is there today. It's supposed to warn motorists that there's cars coming out of Via Viento, that first intersection. So the request is a similar sign. It's called an intersection ahead sign or a crossroads ahead sign for Cresta Verde. Traditionally, this sign is placed about 300 to 350 feet in advance of the intersection. So the sign would normally look like a T intersection or a plus sign. I'm sorry, it look like a plus sign. But if we did a plus sign, it's forgetting about there's another street before that street, which is Via Concha. So what city staff is proposing, it's a modified crossroads ahead sign. I put a little black line on the bottom of the plus so that you can tell that there's another street there. It's Via Concha first, and then after that, there's another crossing for Via Marina and Cresta Verde. So that's what the proposed sign is for a crossroads ahead. This street view photo is we're in front of Via Viento. You're traveling south on Montenoso. So the sign would be located on an existing street light pole. I don't know if you could see it from this photo, but there's a street light pole conveniently located right there where the sign would go. So we wouldn't even have to put a new pole in. And again, it's a traditional plus sign with a little black dash on the bottom because there's a smaller street, which is about 100 feet ahead. And this exhibit shows the normal crossroads ahead sign on the left, and what we're proposing to do is a modified one. There's a little black dash there. This is from the California Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. I highlighted some areas. A crossroads symbol may be used in advance of an intersection to indicate the presence of an intersection and the possibility of turning or entering traffic. And another section in the manual says intersection signs may be used where engineering judgment indicates a need to inform the road user in advance of an intersection. That's what the manual says about this sign. And this is another exhibit that was located in the manual. Just shows that the top row, the second from the left, that's the plus sign, the intersection ahead sign. And then this exhibit shows what the original resident emailed to the staff. Thank you again for your time this afternoon. You were extremely helpful. I'm writing to you today to formally request a traffic sign on Montenoso Drive. I'm requesting a sign bearing intersection ahead be installed 300 feet north of Cresta Verde and Via Marina intersection with a speed limit of 30 miles per hour on Montenoso. This would give southbound drivers advance notice of roughly 6 seconds prior to approaching the intersection. Due to the nature of Montenoso curving from the east, drivers attempting to turn left from Cresta Verde have an obstructed view of southbound oncoming traffic. This is illustrated in the below image. This is a requested stop intersection ahead sign. Here's an image of the view oncoming traffic while attempting to turn left from Cresta Verde onto Montenoso towards Oso Parkway. So this is the photo that was submitted by the resident. In conclusion, I am formally requesting the installation of this traffic sign as a result of personally experiencing near-miss accidents while attempting to turn left out of this street. I believe this issue is serious enough to request corrective measures, as the right side of most vehicles, including my own, is where my 3-month-old son resides in his car seat. I appreciate your time and look forward to working with you. Sincerely, Mr. Tori Rosano. So our options at this point is to approve the modified crossing intersection ahead warning sign on southbound Montenoso, or option 2 is to keep existing conditions and continue to monitor the intersection. So that concludes my presentation. Does the commissioners have any questions?
No questions from me.
Okay. Commissioner Quino, did you have any questions?
None from me either.
Okay. Deputy Dixon, do you have any questions? Nope. Okay. All right. If there's no questions, we're open to taking a motion from either of the commissioners at this point.
I'm inclined to approve the modified crossing intersection based on what's been presented, and also anecdotally, I leave the rec center driving this way often, and I could understand the blind spot when you're coming through. Interestingly enough, isn't there a golf cart crossing right after Cresta Verde as well? Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes, there is.
So it will give you advance warning for Cresta Verde, Via Maria, as well as that golf cart crossing. So that's an excellent addition to that street. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Aquino?
Yeah, I concur with Commissioner Molinari. I approve of the signs. I often use that route to get to St. Kilian Church, so I'm roughly familiar with some of the issues there and a lot of the blind spots. So with that, I think we're in agreement.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll go ahead and approve this sign, and we'll submit a work order. That concludes my agenda item. So thank you to all.
Thank you.
All right. So that means I am up next with the item number 6, which is the request for a yield sign on Agia Street at Pacifica Avenue. And I will start sharing my screen here. All right. My exhibit's working this time? They're looking good? Okay, I see one thumb going up there, so it means you guys are seeing at least something, which is an improvement from last time. So, this request comes to us from a resident on Pacifica Avenue, I believe, and they are concerned for safety about when vehicles enter into their neighborhood onto Pacifica Avenue from Agia Street, that they're not coming to a complete stop and creating a hazardous condition at that intersection. This neighborhood is located on the northeast corner of the intersections of Alicia Parkway and Muirlands, with Agia taking direct access off of Muirlands Boulevard. So that gives you a sense of where we are in town. This is the layout of the existing intersection. You can see there's an existing center line on Agia Street. Both streets are 40 feet wide, just to give you a point of reference for the conditions that the motorists are seeing out there. You see the proposed yield sign and associated pavement markings there on Agia Street at the intersection of Pacifica Avenue. The background history of this intersection, the 3-year collision history showed 0 collisions taking place at this intersection. We also have posted speed limit signs of 25 miles an hour on Pacifica Avenue. Agia Street being as short as it is, there's no posted speed limit on there. So we used the dash line in the previous exhibit to show what the yield sign limit line looks like. This is a exhibit out of the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices to show what it actually looks like out on the street. That it's a series of consecutive triangles that show the vehicles or show the motorists where they should wait for oncoming traffic to clear before making their turn movement at this location. So here we have some photos of the intersection. This is on Agia Street, approaching Pacifica Avenue. So the Muirlands would be to the photographer's back in this particular photo. This is looking to the north on Pacifica Avenue from the intersection of Agia Street. So this is what the driver is looking at when choosing whether or not it's safe to make their left turn. And then this is the other direction, looking south on Pacifica Avenue, again from Agia Street. The next 2 photos are the different approaches on Pacifica Avenue towards Agia Street. So this is looking south on Pacifica towards the intersection. And then this is the other direction, looking northbound on Pacifica. And then finally, this is looking from Pacifica back down Agia towards Muirlands Boulevard down there, where there's an existing stop sign. So this request actually started as a request for a stop sign at this location. So the original request said a stop sign is needed here before someone gets killed. Drivers speed down Pacifica Avenue and could hit cars trying to make a turn on Agia Street. There was some communication with staff with this resident about the warrant process that a stop sign would require here, and that the warrants would likely be met. And staff informed the resident that a yield sign would be more likely outcome because of the less stringent requirements for installing a yield sign. And so the resident responded that they would be in support of the yield sign. The comment reads, please do include the request for a yield sign on Agia Street at its intersection with Pacifica Avenue as an agenda item for the next traffic committee meeting. And that was from our resident, Adrian Aguilera. So again, there's not a warrant like there for a yield sign like there is for an always stop. That's because at the end of a T intersection, or the end of the street coming into the T intersection, motorists are already required to yield. So we're not making a regulatory change at this location. We're just posting or giving a physical sign showing what the expectation is, rather than just relying solely on what the motorist should know from the vehicle code to yield to oncoming traffic at this location. There were postcards sent out to homes within 300 feet of this intersection. We did not receive any additional follow-up comments, and so I can open this up to our commissioners if they have any comments or questions, or if they would like to make a motion.
I don't have any questions. I would move to approve a yield sign there.
I don't have any questions as well, and I would second that motion to approve a yield sign for that location.
Okay. Deputy Dixon, do you have any comments to add here?
No, I know that we've been starting to put more of these up, and the shortness of the street, people coming off of Muralins and making that turn, it's like that T intersection is right upon them, and maybe an added visual cue might help them to, check themselves before they wreck themselves and make a turn out on the road before they turn into somebody. And we have put up a few in that same area, and they seem to have been effective, and we haven't received a lot of complaints anymore that we were receiving before.
Yeah, and don't recall getting any complaints about the yield signs once they go in. The residents seem to be supportive of them. So we can have that one approved, and that'll conclude this item unless there are further comments. And so that brings us to item number 7, which is establishing a traffic committee regular meeting schedule. And so historically what we've done is the traffic committee would meet on a particular day of the week, say the first, second, or third week of the month. For the last few years, we've been on the third Monday of the month in the afternoon, but these meetings are subject to commissioner availability. So I would like to have a discussion with our commissioners about what type of schedule like that would work best for them, so that we can establish a meeting schedule for the rest of the year, and then that would give the rest of the staff that have to help us with things like sending out the postcards and stuff, manage their schedules to be helpful to us. So like I said previously, we were in the third week of the month, and that is where we kind of found that to be ideal for when items are approved at the traffic committee level that move up. It gives staff the optimum amount of time to prepare the staff report to go to the traffic committee meeting. So I think we would like to continue on that. But as far as what day of the week and if we have a morning or an afternoon meeting, I'd like to have a discussion with our commissioners on that right now, if anyone would like to open that up.
I'll open up and per some previous emails, just with my my schedule and my day job, and when COVID restrictions get lifted, subsequent travel schedule that I have, Fridays tend to be the best day for me. That's a day where I'm working from home. I can kind of have freedom in the afternoons to cut the day short and provide my full attention to these meetings and give my best to the staff in the city. So that's my proposal. And whether it's the third week or second week, whatever works for staff, Deputy Dixon, Commissioner Quino, I'm willing to listen and work from there.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Quino.
Yeah, I'm fine with whatever week in the month, and if we want to keep doing these on Fridays, that works for me. And Friday afternoons, I would prefer to have these.
All right. So I have a question for Philip. If the third week worked best when we were on Mondays, would it make sense to move up to be the second Friday of the month? Would that work best for you for putting in planning commission agendas?
No, it wouldn't.
Oh.
The planning commission meets the second Tuesday of each month. So then the staff reports are usually due, I think, the Tuesday before that, or maybe even earlier, maybe the Thursday 2 weeks before that. So the meeting that we have today, you know, it's the first week of March, and I can't put in an agenda report for March Planning and Transportation Commission meeting. So it would just go to the April one. So if we were to change the meeting to, the third or fourth week of, February, I would have been able to meet this month's Planning Commission. I think we're okay with doing it the first week of the month as we've done it like today. You just have to know that it's going, the following week is the same month's Planning Commission. Now I won't be able to get it on the agenda. So we would just have to wait till April. So it would be like a 5-week lag. We could change it to the second week, like you've indicated. So then it would, it would be immediately after the Planning Commission, on Monday or on Tuesday. And I'm sorry, it is on Monday. So it'd be the Planning Commission on Monday. And then that same week on that Friday, the commissioners would have the Traffic Committee. That's how your second week of the month would look like. I don't know if the commissioners would be okay with that, having the 2 meetings in the same week, but it doesn't look good. I guess I would say if we have a Traffic Committee and then there's a Planning Commission that we don't put it on that agenda and we have to wait until the next one, it looks like we're skipping one. Usually you want to have the Traffic Committee. This is how we've done it in the past. You want to have the Traffic Committee right after the Planning Commission meeting so that you can put it on the next agenda. So I would recommend any time after the Planning Commission meeting, we should schedule the Traffic Committee so that it doesn't look like we're skipping one. So that's kind of my input on that.
All right. So so does that mean you're okay with the second? I mean, the second Friday puts us right after the Planning Commission. So I guess the question is to the commissioners if you're okay with having both meetings happen on the same week, the commission on Monday and then Traffic Committee on Friday.
I'm okay with that. We will earn our weekends if it's on the same
For
week.
that particular week, yes.
Yeah, I apologize for my schedule pushing this to a Friday, but that is what it is. But I'm like Commissioner Quino said, we will earn our weekends that week for sure.
Okay.
And as long as Deputy Dixon is quoting lyrics from Ice Cube again, that'll be ideal.
All right. So I'm hearing second Friday is our agreed upon schedule.
I want to
No.
Okay. We could do the second Friday, I'd say starting in May, if that's okay with everyone. The April meeting, the month of April, I'd like to have the Traffic Committee on the first Friday, which is April 2nd. The reason is we have a critical traffic committee item that we need to present. It's already scheduled to go to the planning commission or I'm sorry, the city council in April. So if we could make just the April one on the first Friday, but then after April, every Friday thereafter, it would be the second Friday. Is that okay with everyone?
I'm amenable to that.
Confusing.
Works for me.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just writing down my notes so I have it accurate. So our next meeting will be on Friday, April 2nd, and we'll stick with the 2 p.m. start time. And then after that, we'll go to May 14th. And then we'll be on, oh, wonderful. We'll be on June 11th. That is, so I will be spending my birthday with you guys. So, all right.
Yeah, and at the next meeting, Brett, you could provide maybe a table that shows all the future meetings, and then we can approve it.
As a follow up to this, I'm gonna create a table and create a PDF file of it and send it out so that Angela and Patricia, our support staff, everyone can see what our meeting schedule is going to be. So there won't be any questions about when our meeting is, and I'll send it out to everyone here too.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll be on the second Friday of the month, starting in May, but our next meeting will be on April 2nd.
Yep.
All right. Our last item that we have, item number 8, is just for updates. And that's if the commissioners have questions about any ongoing projects or follow-up to things from previous meetings. This is your opportunity to ask those questions and have discussions with staff on that right now. Also, sometimes staff has other little news items to bring up during this section. But I don't have anything else to share right now. Philip, how about you?
I don't have anything to share right now.
Commissioner Molinari, do you have any additional questions for staff?
No, this being my first meeting, just wanted to thank you guys for your time and once again your being amenable to my schedule. So once again, moving forward, I'll look forward to more of these.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, the traffic committee meets at the discretion of the commissioners that sit on the committee. So we are here to serve you guys. Commissioner Aquino, do you have any final comments or questions?
Nothing to add other than I ditto what Commissioner Molinari said. Thank you all for your hard work, and stay safe out there. You all have a good weekend.
All right. Then last call for any other questions, comments? Anyone? All right, then we will call this meeting adjourned at 3:48. And we will adjourn to our April 2nd meeting at 2 p.m.
Very good.
All
See
right.
you then.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
have a good weekend.
All right. Have a good
All right.
weekend.
Bye.
All right. And Mark, you're going to have to let me know when you finish streaming so I can shut the meeting down.
You can turn it off now, Brett.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.